This guide is going to show you a quick and easy method to create a realistic looking smoke and fire effect using Blender. For this guide we'll use a new general file, but you can use any project you're working on. Highlight the object that you want the fire to be produced from, click Object, go down to Quick Effects, and then click Quick Smoke. The quick effect will create a smoke domain and then turn the object into a smoke effect. I'm now going to scale the smoke domain just to give it a bit more volume. This can be done now, or you can use an adaptive domain, which will do it automatically. We'll then click on Physics Properties, change the flow type to Fire and Smoke. We can then highlight the smoke domain, and whilst we're still in Physics Properties, scroll down to Cache. Change the cache type from Replay to All, and then click Bake All. Once this is complete, all the simulation data is generated and saved into your cache. We can then change the render engine to make it more realistic when it's rendered. I'm going to use Cycles and change my device to GPU Compute. If we were to render this now, then we would only see the smoke effect and we wouldn't see any fire. We can change this by going into Shading and then changing the backbody intensity up to 1. I'm also going to make a small adjustment to the density. This is the smoke density and it'll make the flames a little bit more visible. We can then go back to layout, and when we click play we can see the animation take place in the viewport. If we pause this and render one of the frames, you can see the quality is a little bit better, but it's still not very realistic, so there's a few more adjustments we need to make. We can do this by highlighting the smoke domain and going to Physics Properties. Scroll back down to the cache area and click Free All. We can then go up to Noise, select a box, and change the upres factor to a higher number. 5 is probably a good amount to go for if you want a bit more realism, but I'm going to go for 10 at the moment. Keep in mind the higher the upres factor, then the longer it's going to take to bake, so I'm going to reduce the amount of frames I'm baking from 250 to 100 just so that we can see the effect take place. We can then click Bake All again and go and make a coffee. If you're curious, I've sped this video up to 3000%, so this will take a while to finish. Now that it's complete and we have the effect in our cache, we can scroll through the timeline and see the effect take place. We can also render one of the frames and you can see a big difference between this one and the last one. The smoke on this render does look a little bit wispy, so there's still a few more adjustments for us to make. One I like to change again is the density of the smoke. I've reduced it here down to 0.5. And then when we render this, I think the smoke looks a little bit more realistic depending on what you're trying to achieve. I'm going to reduce the smoke density a little bit more to 0.2. I'm also going to remove the default light that was in the scene at the start, and then I'm going to add in a floor. The fire itself already gives off light through emission, so there's not really any need for the light at the moment. The floor will help make the fire look a little bit more realistic and reflect a little bit of the light. And if we render the scene again, we can see that it's becoming a lot more realistic. We can increase the realism a lot more by adding textures onto the floor, adding a HDRI for the background, and changing the lighting. But we're going to leave this as it is for now. I'm going to render a few frames and show you how the effect shows. Again, this will take a very long time, so don't worry, I have sped this video up. Now that our render is complete, we can open the output folder and click on the file to play it. I've put this video on repeat here, but just keep in mind this is just a 20 frame render as an example.